So this is Dr. Matt Parker, Holistic Functional Veterinarian. Today I'd like to tell you a little bit of the highlights of my nutrition guide. The nutrition guide is found here on my website, which is drmattparker.com. From my website, the first thing you'll find is the pre-visit questionnaire, which is where you go if you want to schedule an appointment with us. There's also a link here for supplements and refills, things like standard process and cell core that you can order. And then the nutrition guide is what I want to talk about today. So let's get to that. I'm clicking on the nutrition guide, and here is the page, Pet Whole Foods, Nutrition, and Herbs. This is a 14-page document, and that's a little long for everybody to read. So I want to just touch on the highlights as quick as I can. The short version is that our dogs and cats are supposed to eat whole raw foods, which is what we're supposed to eat, but we don't typically do that. Here you can download a PDF of this. It's 14 pages. It's hard for me to make it any shorter than 14 pages because I love to go into detail, so it's all there. The sections of it start with moisture. So the most important thing about food, the first thing I mentioned is moisture. And the reason is our bodies are supposed to be 60 or 70% moisture or water. Raw foods are 60 or 70% water. Plants are 90% water. But the dry kibble that most people feed their pets, the bag food you buy from the grocery store, are less than 10% water. So that just causes a lifetime of dehydration and desiccation and causes a lot of the problems that our pets have. The next section is sourcing. So here's the sourcing section. The highlights here, the main thing about all this is cleanly sourced ingredients, plants and animal ingredients. Farmers and providers are very, very happy and proud of this. They will make a big deal about this on their website about where their food came from and the happy life it had and regenerative agriculture, way beyond organic. The fact of the matter is that most of the food you buy in the grocery store comes from the military industrial complex factory farm food system. It's a lot of GMO stuff. It's a lot of unhealthy stuff. It's a lot of unhappy stuff. And we want to try to avoid that when we can. So there's more information there, a lot of information there. Completeness. Complete and balanced, commercially prepared dry foods that you buy in the store, they're usually balanced because they're full of synthetic man-made vitamins and minerals. And those things aren't always biologically available. So even though they're complete and balanced, you don't know that you're getting everything. So that's something to look at. Most of the home-cooked and raw foods are balanced naturally from the food ingredients. The main point here is if you're home cooking or making it yourself, like crock potting or something, it's almost impossible to get it done right. I think getting it complete for yourself at home is reserved for only the most advanced of the home food cooking pet parents. If you've been cooking food on your own at home for your pets for a long time, and you're using organs and supplements and vitamins and minerals, individual herbs, well, that's great. You probably know what you're doing. The rest of us just starting out, it's going to be too hard for you to do it this way. So you probably need to buy something already made, okay? Next is species requirements. The most important thing in here is that if your animal were in nature, your cat or dog were in nature, and they were to kill some prey and eat it, they would eat the nutrient-dense organs, bones. That's where all the vitamins and minerals are, is in the gut and the organs. That's what they would eat in nature. In fact, that's what we as humans, and our grandparents and great-grandparents used to eat all the time. That's where the vitamins and minerals are. And we don't do that anymore. So that's a very important thing about where your vitamins and minerals come from. It's even more important for dogs and cats than it is for us, but it's important for all of us. This genetic lineage and ethnicity, this is people and pets also, depending on your background, your genetic background, and where the breed originated from, it may be more tolerant to certain fats or certain meats or certain fish than another animal of a different breed. So that's something to look at. You can look at that further if you need to. So your options, your first option, the dry processed kibble or canned food in the grocery store. You can feed a carefully prepared commercial raw. That's the frozen raw in the freezer, which is what I love, but it's not for everybody. You can do some home cooking of some sort. You can do a gently cooked food, which is like the stuff you see on TV, like Farmer's Dog and Just Food for Dogs and those things. Or you can allow your pet to be a hunter and scavenger. This really only works if you live way out in the country. I'm gonna mention this again, but it doesn't really work for cats because cats kill all the songbirds. Cats are an unnatural predator because they get to live a sheltered life indoors in our home where they don't really have a predator to kill them, and then they go out well rested and well fed and kill all the birds. So I don't like that, even though it seems like a natural thing. It's not natural because the cats live a sheltered life with us. Packaging and labeling lingo. This is a big deal. I have a video about this that I'll squeeze in here. It's a video I made in August of 2018, and I've uploaded a new version of it to YouTube. The link will be here. Everything that you're told about the food and the lingo and the advertisement is merely that, advertisement and marketing. They want you to read cage-free or free range, and you probably picture something like this, of a beautiful farm and the animals are healthy out in the sunshine. But what those often really mean is this, they're in a factory, it's not what you think. This is all marketing and advertisement, okay? So not to be a big bummer, but you need to know that, and you need to be looking in more detail and putting more effort into finding where your food comes from. That goes back to the sourcing at the beginning. There's a lot about ingredients here, how ingredients are listed by weight, and how anything that has water in it, like real meat, is going to be heavier than a meat meal. So that's a lot of how it's manipulated on the ingredient list to make it look like there's more of one thing than another. You can read this in more detail. So dry processed kibble is by far the most popular thing, that we're feeding our dogs. It's all the pet food stores and the supermarkets. We've been feeding this for a long time. It's largely because Big Kibble, the pet food industry, the big corporation, just has, it's greed. They have their hands in the pockets of the vet school and the veterinarians, and they want us to feed their food, and they make everything that's not dry kibble sound like it's dangerous and unhealthy. This is just PR and marketing and propaganda. There's a lot of information here you can look at. Canned food is about the same. It has a little bit more moisture in it, but it's not really a whole lot better than dry kibble. So here we have commercially prepared raw, the frozen, the stuff that some people think is nasty. This is the frozen raw food with organs. This is what I love. It's the best thing. Food is not supposed to be sterile. Food is supposed to have some healthy bacteria in it. Pasteurization, you've heard of pasteurization from whenever that was developed by Louis Pasteur in the 1800s. That was developed because there was too much bad bacteria in our food. There was too much poop and fecal contamination in the cattle and chickens, and we're getting that bad poop bacteria. E. coli is in poop. Salmonella is in poop. We're getting those things contaminated with our food because our food is too dirty because the animals are living in their own poop and filth. I think I've said poop enough for now. So pasteurization, that's why it's developed. Food that's grown properly out on a healthy, friendly farm does not need to be pasteurized because it's full of healthy bacteria. And we're supposed to have healthy bacteria in our food and in our bodies. This is very similar to Purell. We cleaned too much bacteria off of our hands every day, and we lose the good bacteria that was there to start with. So don't be afraid of these things. Read this in more detail. This is all here. Freeze-dried raw is very similar to the frozen raw. It's just been super dehydrated in a way. This makes it a little less rich. So for a dog with inflammatory bowel disease or GI issues, the freeze-dried is often a little bit more tolerable than the frozen raw. The frozen raw is very rich and can really upset a dog with IBD, gut issues, inflammatory bowel disease, chronic disease. The raw can be too rich. The freeze-dried can be a little gentler with most of the same benefits. You can prepare food yourself at home cooking. It's great. It's wonderful. It's really, where all the ingredients come from. But if you're not sourcing from those farms that are proud of where the ingredients come from, and you're not getting all the vitamins and minerals right because you're not an expert at this, then although this is a great idea, it's just difficult to get it right. So I don't recommend it for everybody. Gently cooked commercial foods, great idea. They take their raw food and they gently cook it, which is not what you can do at home. You can't take raw food and cook it yourself. I actually tried that for my own pet in the past, and it was a huge mistake because all the B vitamins get destroyed by the heat. These gently cooked foods, they've added extra B vitamins, or they've added the B vitamins after the gently cooking process to avoid that. So if you cook raw food yourself, you're going to lose B vitamins, and it brings the fats out. The heating changes the fats in the raw food. It makes them very liquidy and fatty, and they'll give your dog pancreatitis. Allowing your pet to be a hunter or a scavenger. This is great if you're on a farm and you have a cat that's chasing and killing all the mice in the barn. But in the urban environment, it doesn't work well. And as I said earlier, the cat has a sheltered indoor life where it's safe from predators at night, and then it goes out and kills all the birds. And that's not fair to the birds, okay? Your other options, you do the best you can. That's the main thing that's in this section. If you can't afford the raw, or your dog can't handle the raw, then do some gently cooked, or throw in a little bit of home cooked food while you're still adding plenty of supplements and other foods. Do the best you can. This is expensive. It's difficult. So don't do more than you can do. Just try your best. And don't forget lifestyle. That's a big important part of this. Food is 90% of the problem, but it's not everything. Your dog needs fresh air and sunlight and mental stimulation, and more than just a food change, okay? So if you're feeding dry kibble like most people are, you've got to be really slow about your transition. There was a website I mentioned earlier in here, or that was listed earlier in here, called catinfo.org. It's an older site where they talk about how to get your cat to switch to canned food from dry kibble. But the whole process they describe there works for dogs and cats in any food changing you're making. And it really discusses how to do it really slowly and carefully, and remembering that cats don't do anything they don't want to do. So you have to be really, really, really slow and let them think it's their idea. Gut repair and digestion. I think most dogs and cats I see are living with a smoldering inflammatory bowel disease. Some have straight up inflammatory bowel disease, and you know it, and they've been diagnosed with it from the vet. They have vomiting and diarrhea and inflammation, and they've had biopsies and they've had tests, and you know they have it. So that's one thing. Changing their food is really going to help that, but we have to be really careful with how we do it. I think more often, though, most of the pets in our society are living with what I call a chronic smoldering inflammatory bowel disease. And it's like a functional thing. They're living with it. They eat grass often. They vomit. They have diarrhea intermittently. They have gurgle belly. They're doing good on a particular brand of flavor of food, but when they get something they're not supposed to have, they get serious diarrhea or even pancreatitis. I call this functional IBD. So all of these things, they need better food that's less inflammatory, but they also need some supplements and some stuff to help repair their gut. This is not a one-size-fits-all. We don't know exactly what they need until we examine the individual or we do the questionnaire on the website. So where is their problem? What part of the gut is primarily affected? Is it saliva, esophagus, stomach, upper or lower intestine, gallbladder, liver, lymphatics? Is it a stress overdrive, a sympathetic overdrive, which shuts down the whole digestive process? There's all these things it could be that we have to figure out before we know what supplement or additive they need, or to even determine exactly which of the foods we talked about above, raw or freeze-dried or gently cooked, which is best for them. I don't have any recipes here right now, but I'm working on adding one. I've been talking to a nutritionist. Her website is called Feed Thy Dog. Here's a few more resources, and that's as quick as I can go through this information. So I hope it's helpful. If you want more details, read more. There's several links in here. Again, this is the nutrition guide at drmattparker.com. Thanks for watching.